Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, just in case you are a new visitor to this channel and you aren't aware that this is my deep dive into an interesting and intriguing and educational deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. So what do I do? Every night before I go to sleep, I shuffle my mass market color version of the deck. Because it's a mass market deck, I shuffle the heck out of it and I pull my card for the day. And then I draw the same card from my out of print charcoal gray and white version of the deck. And I look at the two cards, the same cards, but different editions together, different printings, different editions actually. I look at them because there are differences. Sometimes there are slight differences, sometimes, particularly in the Sage card, otherwise known as the Hierophant card, there is a large difference in the cards. So I look at them together and I ponder them for a bit, and then I ask for help. I get help from another deck, a deck that I'm at least more familiar with, if not completely fluent in, because I've been working with it since my deep dive into that deck about a little more than 6 months ago. And that deck is the Tarot of the Holy Light by the beautiful Christine Payne-Towler. And so I do a 3-card spread with that deck. Now I shuffle the cards and I pull 3 cards. The first is the energy or situation. The second is the challenge, which could be challenge in the sense of something to strive for, something to aim for, or challenge in the sense of an obstacle. And then the third card is the advice or outcome. So then I look at those cards, and then I go to sleep, and then I wake up, and then I live my day. And then at night, I look at the cards again, I pick them apart, I compare them and analyze them as best I can, and see how the meanings of those cards, the symbols, the associations of those cards revealed themselves to me during the day, or they might not have. And I perhaps need to do a little bit more soul searching, a little bit more study, a little bit more reflection. And then I do this video, which is what I'm doing now. And friends, if you have been following along with me on this series, I'd like to give a deep, broad abundance of gratitude to you, because as I said, I'm filming these at night, and I've for the last week just started a winter camp with elementary school and middle school students, but I'm working with elementary school students, and I don't usually work with elementary school students. And at the end of the day, I have been completely wiped out, and my brain has been a little foggy is an understatement. So there have been times when vocabulary just has flown out of my mind and I have not been able to retrieve it. So if you have stuck with me, deep gratitude. Thank you very much. Hopefully I've taken a nap today. Today is Saturday when I'm filming. And I did have classes in the morning, but I got the chance to take a nap before I started work on the video. And so hopefully this will be a little bit smoother. Although there is a lot of stuff to cover in this video. Early warning, yeah? A lot of stuff to get through. But interesting stuff. A lot of meat, a lot of grizzle to chew on. I hope you're not a vegetarian, because that might have just freaked you out. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of cud to ruminate on. Let's move past these metaphors and move right into the first card, yeah? Let me show you the daily draw card from the Egyptian Tarot right now. So you just saw the daily draw was the 7 of Swords, right? And basically they looked very similar, although there were some slight differences, right? Here they are. Let me show them to you again. You see 7 swords, 4 on the bottom, 3 on top, which I like. The 4 of structure, the 3 of the divine, stacked atop each other in that fashion. That's my favorite. I like it also when there are, for example, in Tarot de Marseille, the 7 of discs, the 7 of coins, they're arranged in a very similar way. And it's interesting that it's that card that came to mind because, just in case you didn't know, the swords in this deck are the earth suit. Now, don't go away. Don't freak out. The swords in this deck are the earth suit, and the coins in this deck are the air suit. So let's just move past that right away. But yeah, these two cards are very similar. The only real differences are the constellations, right? And also, yes, one is color and one is charcoal gray and white, certainly. But the numbers of stars are a little bit different, and the constellation looks a little bit different, and yet they are both the same constellation. Yeah, this is the constellation of Boötes. Boötes. I think that's the way it's pronounced. It's from the Greek. Let me show you that constellation right now. This constellation has a lot of stars, right? And before we get into the rest of the card, before we go into the astrological significance of the Seven of Swords, and I'm trying to retrieve it, I for some reason just set it off to the side. Before we get into the astrological associations for the card itself, which you just saw on the card, let's dive into the constellation first, because there's a lot of meat here, and I'm not really sure where to go with it yet. But Boötes, this constellation is not directly named for the mythological creature beings that are associated with it. I found 3 very different stories associated with this constellation. One is about Arcas, who was the son of Calypso. Calypso, not the dance, no, Callisto and Zeus. And of course, Callisto is not Zeus's wife. Yeah, Zeus has a very different wife, but Zeus got fancy with Callisto, and who was the daughter of Arcadian, the king of Lycaon. These are all Greek names, right? Lycaon. And so Zeus and Callisto got it on, as it were, and Callisto gave birth to Acras, and Acras was brought up by his grandfather, the king I just mentioned. And one day, the king of Arcadian decided he wanted to test Zeus out. He wanted to see what would happen if he just, I don't know, chopped up his child and served it to him for food. Yeah. Now, I don't know how he got into serving Zeus, his son, Arcas, but that's what happened. He served Zeus Arcas. But guess what? Zeus had figured it out. And so what does Zeus do as the god, as the king of gods? Well, naturally, he goes and he transforms the king into a wolf and strikes down all of his natural sons, which would be, I assume, Arcas's uncles, right? Strikes down all of Arcas's uncles, and he brings Arcas back to life. Now, we just said that Zeus is married to another goddess called Hera, and Hera is not known to be the most forgiving of goddesses. Hera knows that her husband is the ultimate playboy, and she is the ultimate jealous wife, right? So what does she do? Realizing, knowing, finding out that Zeus fathered yet another child by yet another human, Hera goes and transforms Callisto into a bear. Who wouldn't? And Callisto roams the woods until one day her son, fully grown, meets her. But Acras didn't know that his mother had been transformed into a bear. And so he decides, I'm going to kill this bear. So he chases the bear. And the bear, once being human, thought, aha, I'm not going to kill my son. I'm going to run away into a temple. Because if I run into a temple, my son, Acras, won't kill me because he knows he would be defiling the temple and incur the wrath of the gods. So she runs into the temple. And to avoid being killed by her son, as one would. And then Zeus says, okay, enough of this. And he places both Callisto and Acras up in the heavens. he places Callisto as having been transformed into a bear, Ursa Major, Ursa, bear, the big bear, right? Ursa Major, and very nearby, Akras as Bootes. So in the sky, we've got perhaps by one myth, the son and the mother, the son having chased the mother into a temple, trying to kill her. But we've got the bear and we've got the son together for eternity up in the heavens. Yeah, kind of bittersweet kind of ending, right? Another story is that Bootes is not Akras, but rather Icarus. Now, just a second, not that Icarus, not the one who flies up with wax wings and melts and dies. That's a different Icarus. This Icarus is a very good grape grower. And this grape grower gets the attention of none other than Dionysus. Dionysus, the king of wine and festivities and fertility in that kind of, sexuality. And so Dionysus comes to Icarus and tastes his grapes and says, very good. And so I will teach you the art of winemaking. And so Icarus follows the recipe as given by Dionysus and tastes it and is, wow, this is wonderful. So I'm going to invite all my friends and have a party. So he invites all of his friends and has a party. But his friends had never tasted wine before. They liked it. However, the next morning, they didn't like it very much. Yeah, they woke up with the headache, but they had never had wine before. So they assumed that Icarus had tried to poison them. So what does one naturally do if you think that your headache is due to being poisoned by your best friend? You go and kill him, right? So they killed Icarus, and Dionysus was less than happy. It was very sad. So because he was so sad by the passing of his friend, he placed Icarus up among the stars as none other than Bootes. That's myth number 2. Myth number 3 is a little more simpler. Another myth is that Bootes was credited as the inventor of the plow. Yeah, the plow being pulled by oxen, which will be interesting because we're going to see some oxen a little bit later in the reading for today. So this myth is that Bootes is the inventor of the plow, and who would like the inventor of the plow? None other than Ceres, yeah, the goddess of harvest and abundance and all that wonderful stuff, the mother of Persephone, of course. But she liked this idea of the plow so much that she put him up in the stars along with his plow. That's the third myth of Bootes. Bootes. So we've got all these 3 things, yeah? We've got the plow up there, we've got the inventor of wine up there, and we've got the potential matricide, a matricidal son who, of course, he wasn't intentionally being matricidal, but accidental matricidal son up there with his mom. That's the constellations. But let's look at the 7 of Swords itself. And the 7 of Swords, I told you it was an earth suit in this deck, right? So the 7 of Swords is none other than the Scorpio decanate of Scorpio. It's the first of 3 decanates of Scorpio. I'm sorry, not Scorpio, Virgo. Scorpio is going to come up later. I'm sorry, yeah. Scorpio, water. Virgo, air. I'm sorry, earth. I told you I took a nap, didn't I? Don't ask. Okay, so let's start this again. The 7 of Swords points to the Virgo decanate of Virgo, the first Virgo. The first of 3 decanates of Virgo is supersized Virgo. And its sub-ruler, Mercury. Mercury is Virgo is the domicile of Mercury, from which the mutable aspects of mutable earth, vital attributes, enter our world. So we've got mutable earth. And what's happening here is that Mercury, in his happy home of Venus, Mercury is an androgyne, right? Mercury, in their happy home of Virgo, not Venus, Virgo, is radiating all of his, her, their characteristics through the Virgo decanate of Virgo in the house, ostensibly of Virgo, into our planet, down to our planet and into our lives and into our astrological charts, into our own personal planetary alignments for the moment. And so this card, being a very supersized mutable earth card, has a lot to do with, I believe, work and ethics, and of course the Virgo aspects of details, planning, making lists, making sure everything is perfect, getting stuff done. Virgo, after the joyous, rambunctious, playful Leo of creativity and leadership, this Virgo says, okay, let's get to work, right? So Virgo says, let's get to work and let's get things right. You've been messing around in the sun too long. Let's start getting things cleaned up and fixed up and in order and right. So, which is an interesting thing, because Mercury is not necessarily that kind of a planet, but in this dry way of the ascension back up from the summer months into the winter months. There's a little bit less of that playful trickster of Mercury and more of the communicative, this clever one, I guess, right? So here we have what achievement is possible in this sign, in this card. Actually, there's a long list of very divergent associations to this card, and I've plucked out the ones that seemed to be the ones I liked the most. Perhaps I might have unintentionally been ignoring or pushing the ones that I didn't like aside, but some of them just didn't really seem to make sense, like things associated with pets. Maybe that could have had some meaning for me, but it wasn't very clear. The things that jumped into my mind, that leapt into my consciousness as I read through the list. So things like, again, achievement. Progress follows conflict. So that's not completely a pristine, yay, team, but there's conflict, but progress follows it, which was interesting because there were some moments of conflict during the day. Victory by hard work. That seemed to be appropriate for me and at this time. Positive thinking leading to achievement. That seemed to be appropriate. Ultimate gain through responsibilities. Being responsible, getting something good. Yeah. There's also finding solace in service. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt that as you served people that you felt healed, or you felt more yourself, that you felt blessed perhaps, or you felt the volunteer's high can also be associated with that. Yeah? People who volunteer, who serve, scientific research has been done. People who serve and volunteer have very real health outcomes, beneficial health outcomes of things like relief from arthritis, things like better energetic flow within the nerves of the body, things like higher immune systems or better functioning immune systems. There's all those benefits of solace and service, perhaps. And being an earth suit, sword, yes, but an earth suit, those health issues could also be part of this. Positiveness weeds out negative thoughts. That's a good thing. Converting weakness into strength, fighting discord with faith, having faith that things will all work out, which can have just a little bit of an echo of the Seven of Discs or Seven of Pentacles from one of the Golden Dawn based decks, one of the Golden Dawn based decks, like the one drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith, where we see the gardener resting on a hoe, looking at a bush with pentacles growing on it and waiting for the harvest, observing and checking the way that the seeds that they have planted have been growing and maturing. Sure, paying attention to what we are working on, but still waiting for the time for harvest. So that has kind of an echo there, right? Yeah. There's also the idea of adverse publicity from coworkers. which I wanted to put here because of one, but a couple of things. Also, faith overcomes physical afflictions, which is good because if you've been with me, you may remember that I slipped and fell and hurt my shoulder. My shoulder's been getting a little bit better, so that could be it as well. So we've got a bunch of stuff: progress through after conflict, victory because of hard work, ultimate gain from fulfilling our responsibilities, finding solace in service, also working, right? Positive thoughts weeding out the negative, weakness converts into strength, and also perhaps adverse publicity from coworkers. And I don't know if the publicity has gotten there yet, but there might be a little bit of that in the background. I'm not sure. But so that's what this card seemed to signify for me today. And so, of course, I pulled my 3-card spread. Energy, challenge, advice. Let me show you those cards right now. You just saw in a row from left to right the Magus, otherwise known as the Magician in other decks, the Knight of Cups reversed, and the 8 of Cups reversed. Now, this deck, the Tarot of the Holy Light, is intended to be read with reversals. Actually, the Egyptian Tarot is also intended to be read with reversals, but I decided I don't have the wherewithal, the energy to do that right now, to have 2 decks with reversals and filtering all that information because of this, where I am and what I'm doing right now. A lot of my energy is being drawn by this camp that I'm working at. So I decided to just do upright readings with the Egyptian Tarot, but continue with reading with reversals for the Tarot of the Holy Light. So every time I riffle shuffle the Tarot of the Holy Light, I turn half of it around and shuffle, turn half around and shuffle, as one might do. And so here we had 1 upright and 2 reversals. Interesting, yes? The Magus was the first card. Let me show you this beautiful card right up close and personal again. I'm just checking this again because I don't have a printer that I have access to, and because of that, I can't have an image of the card in front of me and the card itself. So let me check the card and show it to you up close. So we've got the Magus standing on this red carpet, a fiery carpet with wings below, right? And in both of the hands of the Magus, we've got the wand of Mercury. So this Magus reminds me very much of Mercury. And above, we've got the divine triangle with lights, and we've also got a bright, bold, powerful-looking zodiac behind the Magus. And it kind of reminds us a little bit of the Magus from the Thoth deck, at least it does me a bit, where the Magus is walking through this path of light into the physical realm, perhaps from the non-physical. And it's a beautiful card, an absolutely beautiful card in the Thoth deck, and an equally beautiful card here as well, but with some differences. And the Magus in this deck is, as you probably saw, well, no, it's probably too difficult to see. Right there. Can you see it? It's very difficult to see. This is the air card for the major arcana. And the Hebrew alphabet is Aleph. So the Magus brings the vital attributes of the element air into our world. And Aleph is also the ox. Yeah, Aleph is the ox, which is similar to Fehu in the runes, which is also an ox, a domesticated ox, the ox of wealth, the ox of abundance, the ox of the early agricultural societies, where the ox is our working animal and helps us create wealth and also feeds us in many different ways. It's a wealth that asks for tending, maintenance. It's not like an inheritance kind of wealth or a magical kind of pot of gold appearing, but it's the wealth of putting work in and tending to your fields and succeeding and creating wealth. And creating is a very important part of this, yes? And also air, the mind. The mind creates, right? Our thoughts create in the world. So we've got all of that. And that Aleph, the ox, reminds us a little bit of the ox idea, where the constellation here at the top of the card, one myth is the inventor of the plow, which could have been pulled by an ox up there in the heavens as a blessing from Ceres. So interesting associations there, I think, especially seeing that this card is the significance for the other card for me during the day. So perhaps it's that creation of wealth. Perhaps it's the abundance of Fehu that is being pointed out for me. And so what do we get for this card? Imagination of one's genius and uniqueness. That's a nice thing. The seeker of hidden truths. Now the Magus is a Magus in the esoteric sense of the magical seeker, worker of magic. The initiate has, well, not necessarily the initiate, but this Magus brings natural power into the world, into the physical universe, and seeks the hidden truths, and awakens to their higher potential, their mission, their initiation into a new creative level. When we think of a lot of the esoteric societies, there are levels, right? The Masons have levels. Other orders have levels. So this may be an initiate to a new level of their path in life, their magical path, where all of our paths are magical. Did you know that? Your path is magical. My path is magical. Whether we focus on it or not, it is. Also, a willingness to embrace the full incarnation of their human vitality. Now, all of that red, all that powerful blood red, that root chakra strength is also vibrant in this card. And this Magus realizes their innate potentials as he, she, they walk the evolutionary path to realizing their eternal nature. Now, this Magus is, as you know, the fool's journey. We usually think of it as the fool's journey. Perhaps we should think of it as the Magus's journey, the magician's journey. The magician has really taken the first step on the journey as to go through the series of trumps, not necessarily in numerical order, to the final realization of their full divine nature in the world. And perhaps even the fool after that. The divine fool. The keen mind pierces through the veil of the physical reality. This Magus is still not. Later, the Magus may get a little bit distracted by the physicality of the world, but having just entered the world again, this Magus can still pierce the veil of the material and see the divine dancing within it. That's part of the mind power of the Magus, I think. He is active at focusing life force in the direction of his intended journey, his intentional life. We're walking the path of our intentional life. And still, as a baby might be, as the newly re-entered might be, open to the powerful flow of intention. Which is wonderful. I love this card. I love this card, particularly when it's upright. So we've got that. We've got this initiate power, being able to still see the divine dancing behind the veil of the material. The full incarnation of our humanity, but also aware of our potential rather than kinetic energy. And so the next card was the Knight of Cups reversed, right? The Knight of Cups reversed. Let me show it to you upright. Now, the Knight of Cups in this deck is none other than Pisces. And it is the domicile of course, Jupiter. So the Knight of Cups. My moon is Pisces, by the way. The Knight of Cups. We see the knight pouring water from a vessel into water. Onto the ground. The water is behind. Yeah, there's an ocean behind, and this does this knight look very happy? He looks a little sad to me. He looks a little bit depressed, but he's pouring his emotions out onto the dry land, that dryness of the land may be the reason why we notice the sad look on his face, the kind of arid environment that he's paying attention to and trying to fill with his emotion. We've got the moon at the bottom. We've got a red moon atop. Looks like a moon to me, but with a red face. Flowers all around. Beautiful card. But this card is reversed for us today. Well, for me today. And still, the Knight of Cups points to Pisces, Pisces, which is the domicile of Jupiter, from which these mutable water attributes enter our world. The vital attributes of mutable water enter our world as Jupiter pours down abundance and expansion and generosity. Well, generosity might be a little bit more Leo, but anyways, abundance and wealth and luck and expansiveness through Pisces, through the house that Pisces resides in, into our lives. And in its reversed form, we see that the water is pouring up, but the dry land is above the reversed Knight, is it not? So that dryness of land might take a little bit more precedence in this card. So what do we get here? We notice that his manners and behavior can still stimulate fantasies, can still stimulate romantic ideas, but this knight is not emotionally available. This knight is not interested in the people who are giving him attention so much. This knight may even be afraid of the dependent feelings of others around them. He doesn't want to disappoint people. He doesn't want to disappoint any more people. He doesn't want to. She doesn't want to. They don't want to. This knight is not gendered, but those of us who are Knights of Cups, in our reversed, we're all Knights of Cups. In our reversed position, we don't want to let anyone get too bonded with us, because we're afraid we will disappoint them as we have perhaps felt we've disappointed others in the past. And so, those of us perceiving the Knight of Cups in the reversed state, we may not want to expect too much from that person. Now, we might want to reflect on whether the impression that we are projecting, really we are projecting that impression, the impression we're projecting is founded in reality, or if it's just an image that we're projecting onto this poor person who really wants us to keep our distance. So this was the challenge for me. And that doesn't seem to be the challenge, the kind of thing to aim for and to strive for, but rather the challenge of a potential obstacle. And so the advice here was another Cups card, right? The Eight of Cups reversed. And let me show you this Eight of Cups upright. This Eight of Cups has been in this deep dive already. And it's a beautiful card. You see this figure perhaps in some kind of a hot baths, giving themselves the treatment of detoxification. And the Eight of Cups in reverse okay, let's back up just a minute, because I just remembered something. For the Knight of Cups, being the home of Jupiter, right? Jupiter, the expansiveness that I talked about. Now, this Eight of Cups, when it's reversed, Jupiter is no longer in its domicile. So let's remember that for just a little bit as we look at this card. Now, the Eight of Cups reversed is still the Scorpio decadent of Pisces. So the Eight of Cups is the points to the Scorpio decadent of Pisces and its sub-ruler Mars, from which the fixed aspect of mutable water vital attributes enter our world. So instead of Jupiter pouring its light naturally through Pisces, here we have Mars, because this is the Scorpio decadent of Pisces. Now, the first decadent of Pisces is Pisces. The second decadent of Pisces is Cancer. The third decadent of Pisces is Scorpio. And Scorpio's planet is Mars. So we've got Mars here, radiating all the Martian attributes and vitality through the Scorpio decadent of Pisces, through the house of Pisces, into the world and into our lives. So we have the fixed aspect of mutable water. It's like this mutable water is trying to be all fixed, and not necessarily fixed in the sense of repaired, right? Rather fixed as in immovable. And so this card in reverse points to normalcy being stripped away, and the soul left bare to wander in the wasteland, which reminds us a little bit of that wasteland above the Knight of Cups in this card, right? That wasteland. Here, we're wandering bare, naked in the wasteland. This is where healing can begin, though. Rather than being in the tubs, getting all comfortable and detoxifying, we're in the wasteland, and this wasteland is the cradle, the beginning of our healing journey. And that reminds us of the Eight of Cups in perhaps Pamela Coleman Smith's art, where we've got the Eight Cups in the background. We've got this figure walking away from those Eight Cups in the dark, dark of night, perhaps towards a castle in the distance. This figure will have to cross over some kind of a body of water. I think it's a river to get to the castle, but this figure is leaving all those emotions behind, leaving all that past emotional experience that has, we assume, been difficult behind and moving away. And so that's another way to begin a healing journey, right? Because Christine Payne-Towler very aptly reminds us that accidents occur. Yeah? There are distressing experiences without a clear locus for blame in our lives. And in this reverse position, like I said, Jupiter, who is naturally at home in Pisces, has gone retrograde, has taken a step back into Cancer. Not Cancer, Capricorn. Capricorn. Which is the home of what planet, naturally? It's the home of Saturn. Now, isn't that interesting? Now, when we think of the relationship between Saturn and Jupiter in mythology, what do we remember? Friends, I'm very sorry. My phone died in the middle of recording this video. I'm using my phone to record this out here at camp, and something happened, a call or something came in and the camera turned off. And so let me try and pick us back up from where we just left off. Yeah, I was just talking about Jupiter, and Jupiter having gone retrograde. Now, Jupiter having left its domicile here in Pisces, maybe having been kicked out by Mars, and Jupiter has gone retrograde into Capricorn, the home of his father, Saturn, right? Now, when we think of Greek mythology, now I may be repeating myself, I'm very sorry. When we think of Greek mythology, we think of Saturn as the father of Jupiter. Saturn is filicidal. Yeah, Saturn is the one who kills his children. And so Jupiter going into the home of his father, has to deal with that memory of his filicidal father before, so that he can do the healing to turn around and move back in the direction of the newly rising or return of the sun after the winter solstice, right? This is at the darkest point of the year. So Jupiter has gone back at the darkest time of the year to the home of his father, who had been intent on killing him, and has to deal with that before turning back around and moving back to the light. So we've got that need for healing again is here in this card, particularly in retrograde, in its in its reversed form here in the Eight of Cups. But then we also get that echo of this card, right? Knight of Cups is Jupiter. So Jupiter has gone back into Capricorn and faced all this here. Isn't that interesting? That's very interesting. So this has all played out in a very interesting way for me. And frankly, I've already told this story once when the camera had been turned off. I didn't realize the camera had been turned off. And so I finished the entire video, and now I'm going back and trying to do it again. So I'm going to try and do it again. So what has my day been today? Well, this morning, I started off the day in pretty good form, I guess. We went to breakfast. I had 2 classes today. I went to my first class, and okay, frankly, the students were not all that jazzed by the project we have in hand. They were, it could have been just they've had a long week and they were a little bit uncomfortable getting into work. And I felt in me that a reactive energy rising within me, wanting to say, just do it, just get to work, just get started. And so I didn't want to do that. I don't want to be that kind of teacher, right? So what did I do? When I felt that feeling, what do you think I should have done? Well, I removed myself. I removed myself from it and said, just a moment. I need to talk to them first, but I'll come right back. And so I went and talked to other people and tried to work through tried to respond to what they wanted to say. And as I did that, I felt that that rising resentment a little bit calmed down quite a bit. I went back to work with those students, and the class ended up okay. I went to the 4 writers, the writing team for the class, and asked them to do a little bit of work on the script between classes over the weekend, and told them they'd get extra points. Now, we're able to give little green cards to our students. Green cards being, yeah, you did a good job. I've got 15 of them to hand out. And if the more green cards they collect, the more points they have, and the one with the highest points gets a prize at the end of camp, and all of that kind of thing. So I offered them green cards if they would work on the script outside of class before Monday's class. And so it all worked out okay. And then then I worked on the letters to parents between my 2 classes, and that went okay. Although I was kind of a little bit groggy. I mentioned I hadn't taken my nap yet. And then I did my second class. And in the second class, there were 3 students. One student had hurt themselves a little bit, so he or she and their friends went to the nurse. And so they weren't there right off the bat. And I was like, oh no, what's going to happen today? We need to get to work. But they came back right away. Apparently they had gone earlier before the long break began, and they'd taken care of it, and we're just a couple minutes late. That was not a big problem. But I also discovered that one of my students in that class had left camp completely. And that student actually had a fairly large role in the story we would be presenting. And so I wanted to work that out. I asked the director, and the student director helped me to pick another student for that role, and it all worked out well. I offered the writers for that group to also work over the 1-day weekend before the next class. And if they produced some, I would give them green cards. They could get extra points. And so the classes, it all seemed to work out okay. Yeah, maybe working through the difficulties, finding solace in service, right? Victory by hard work, progress follows. There was that little bit of conflict I felt within myself. Progress followed that. So maybe that's the working out of that Seven of Swords, right? And then I went up to lunch, and lunch was a little weird. I had lunch with two of my coworkers, and there was some tension between those two coworkers, and then suddenly, it felt very sudden, one of them got up and just left. And then the other one was like, it just felt really, really weird. And I honestly had started feeling a little bit rejected. Rejected might be a strong word, but I felt like my attentions on at least one, if not both of those coworkers were starting to be rejected. I felt like I was being pushed away, and that I didn't like that. I felt pushed away, and kind of like maybe that Knight of Cups reversed, right? Now this Knight of Cups reversed. They were the Knight of Cups reversed, perhaps, especially one of them, maybe. So I didn't want to repress it and say, oh, no, there's nothing wrong, and just go on like that, because that causes larger problems. And I didn't want to blow it out of proportion and, oh my God, they don't like me anymore, and turn into a middle school student. I didn't want to go there either. So what did I do? I observed it. I noticed it. I noticed the feeling and didn't reject it, didn't blame myself for it. Just noticed it and thought, it's possible. What I was trying to do was repay, compensate. At the beginning of this camp, I felt very well cared for. I felt like one or both of my coworkers were taking very, very good care of me. Were helping me. Were supportive in very meaningful ways to me. And so I wanted to match their service to them. I wanted to show my care for them, and so maybe increase an economy of love in our relationship. And I'm not talking about that kind of love. I'm talking about agape. I'm talking about Philadelphia, the brotherly love and the love of community. And so I felt, and I probably went too far, and I've been noticing signs of it, and it just felt really clear today. And so after lunch, I went back to my office and felt really, really I was tired, and that might have been part of it. So I went back to my office and I went to work, and I finished the letters that I needed to finish. And I was, like I said, really tired. So I came back to our apartment and I took a nap. That helped a lot. And then I sent out some messages. What about dinner? Do you want to go to dinner? And I felt a little bit rejected again, but that's okay. And I sent a message out to one of my friends and got no reaction. That's okay. So I got ready for dinner and I went out, and I thought I'd check in on my first friend and see how he's doing with his work. And I went in, and it wasn't like a cold shoulder or anything, but my attentions were not necessary, and okay, I'm fine with that. So I went out, and then I got a message saying, well, I'm from my second friend saying that I'm already up in the cafeteria. And so, okay, so that's not necessary. I was like, okay, so I'll just go up and eat by myself. That's not a big deal. I mean, I'm a big boy. Everybody's reminding me that they're a big boy, so I'm a big boy. So I went up. I met some other coworkers as I was walking up to the building, and we went up and we got our food. And I noticed that the second friend who said that he was already in the cafeteria, I thought I saw him, and then I got my tray, got my food, and turned around, and I didn't see him anymore, and that's okay. So I went and I sat down by myself. And the people I had come up with decided they wanted to sit somewhere else, and I was fine. I was having a good time. I was eating, I was saying hi to the students, and that was all good. So as I was eating, the second friend who I had seen and seemed to disappear suddenly appeared before me and sat down and started eating with me. He had gotten some more food and had joined me. It was okay, that's fine. And then as we were eating, the first friend came and sat down and had dinner with us, and it was okay. There was a weird tension still, but it's okay. And I thought, I don't need it. Just be, right? So I had dinner, and I came back here. My first friend went back to his office to work. He had a lot of work to do. The other friend went back to his office. He had work to do. And he came back to me because he had lost his key card to get into the building. So I lent him my key card and he went off. Hopefully he'll return it soon. And I sat down and started preparing for this. And I thought, I'll just check. We have an app here, an app for to direct message each other, our coworkers, and to direct message our teacher assistants. And we have rooms where we chat, where there's chat about specific topics like attendance or the letters to parents. And I thought, I'll just check that just to see what's going on. And I checked that, and then I realized that I should have gotten a letter from one of the other teachers. One student had joined my class from another class fairly late, like within the last day or two. And the first teacher for that student should have sent me a letter for that student to pass on to their parents. And I hadn't received anything. So I sent a text message to that teacher asking, are you going to be sending me something? And I waited a little. Okay, I didn't wait that long, but I waited a little bit. And then I was wondering, well, what should I do? So I decided to direct message the head of the whole camp. Not because I wanted to say, well, so-and-so should have done. That's not the message I wanted to be sending. I wanted to be sending the message saying, well, I've already uploaded a letter to the parents, welcoming the child to the class, and that we've already welcomed the child and found a place for the child in the production we're preparing, what that production is. So I've got that letter already uploaded, and I haven't gotten a letter from the other teacher, but I did send a message, what should I do? I didn't want to, I don't want to be stepping on any toes, trying to make somebody else do something or blaming anybody, but I also don't want to make it look like I'm not being proactive and trying to get the information that I'm expected to upload. And so I sent that message, and the director said, oh, I just checked the letter you uploaded. It looks great. You don't have to do anything else. Just go ahead with it as is. And I said, okay, thank you. I just didn't want to, this is my first time here. I didn't know whether I should have been doing something more or what, or not doing anything at all. I just wanted to know. And so then I got a message back from him saying, no, you're doing okay. And in fact, we're very pleased with you. The former director of the program who is still working here is also, thinks you're doing a good job. Okay. And if you're interested in continuing to work here, we'd be very happy for you to come back again. And maybe you might consider perhaps becoming one of the coordinators for one of the programs within the camp. And all of these, pats on backs. It felt good. Felt like that, maybe that Seven of Swords energy in that other way, not the obstacle overcome, but the finding solace in service, positiveness, weeds out negative thoughts, yeah? But also, I'm wondering of the adverse publicity from coworkers. Maybe, I wonder if I might have pushed some people's buttons. Either my friend who was pushing me away a little bit, or I wonder if I might have pushed a little bit the other teachers the teacher who I was supposed to have received a letter from. I wonder if I might have pushed that teacher's buttons a little bit too. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. Yeah. I think these cards really do seem to have shed light on the day for me today. Do you think so too? I'd love to hear from you. Do you see how these cards may have their meanings of the cards have revealed themselves during the day? Perhaps I have already begun the healing process in that 8, in those times when I realize that, okay, the feelings that I'm feeling are about being perhaps slightly rejected are valid, and I can do the healing work from there. And I think I might have begun that. Perhaps that was good advice, right? So all this is all very interesting, and I hope you find it interesting too, even with the glitches of today's video and all. I hope that you're still here and enjoying this process with me. And if you are, friends, hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people may get something out of it. It draws more eyes to the channel. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos, because I'm going to continue doing about one a day for until the new moon in February. So it should be a total of about 50. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this reading. Let me know if you got these decks and you use them, or if you're interested in getting these decks, let me know. And in the description box below, there are links so that you can purchase, if you want, the beautiful Tarot of the Holy Light and the color version of the Egyptian Tarot. That's on Amazon. A very inexpensive deck. I suggest getting both of these, because both of these, working with them, will help you expand as a tarot reader, as it is helping me to expand my abilities and my ways of reading and understanding tarot. I've grown so much through working with this deck, and I see growth in myself working with this deck as well. And I highly recommend them. And so look at those links below. Also, if you want if you want a reading from me, my email address is in the description box below. thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Send me an email and we can get you a reading. My treat, my pleasure. So there we are, friends. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for following along with me. I deeply, deeply appreciate you. And from now, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you. Let's see if that recorded. Yep, it recorded.